All right. So I'm here with Angela Fontes with Adapt Commercial Real Estate out of Las Vegas. She's been partnered with TenantBase for a few years. I'm Mike Zay with TenantBase. We're going to be chatting about her brokerage experience and kind of what led her into commercial real estate, as well as the things that have made her successful doing a lot of tenant representation. So, Angela, thanks for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So to start it off, I mean, everyone's got a journey, of how they got into this space. Why don't you walk us through what led you into commercial real estate in the first place and kind of how you got to the point where you were working with a lot of tenants on the tenant rep side?
Well, to give you kind of a little bit of a background, because I feel like my history is a little bit unique compared to maybe others who kind of get into the business. I got into real estate in 2001, and I ended up working for various brokerages and kind of learning all aspects. I started working with Marcus and Millichap in, I want to say 2007. And that was really when I was introduced to commercial real estate. And it was very exciting. And at that point, I was just adminning. So once I kind of got to the point where I had a handle on everything, I went ahead and got my license. And I found that when I first became licensed, I didn't necessarily want to be always on the selling side or the landlord side. I really enjoyed being out in the field and really hunting for properties for people, and serving my local community as well, which was super important. And I noticed with a lot of the people that I was working with that they were having a really hard time getting a broker on the phone for commercial. They didn't feel like they were getting the service that they were really looking for. And so I kind of found myself just naturally gravitating toward the local business owners and even people who were starting up companies that kind of needed that guidance and needed to be walked through the process, and they were underserved. And the more I started looking into who who is serving tenants specifically, not just everybody or landlords, like who's really out for the local businesses. And there were not very many. I would say when I first started, maybe a handful of people, if that, that were really advocating for the local businesses and working specifically with tenants.
Yeah, and so you saw that as a niche. And so
So
what
yeah, that it just kind it evolved. Yeah.
how did you start I mean, you're so right. And like so, the audience here, a lot of brokers, but in every local market, that ecosystem is different. You have the national players who do tenant rep at a corporate level nationally, but in local markets, truly kind of specialized local tenant rep, it really does shockingly run a wide spectrum. There's some markets that are larger markets like a Las Vegas that may not have that many people truly focused on it. So how did you start kind of
Yeah.
yourself that way and finding clients and kind of what did that look like when you started from day one doing it?
To be honest, we've moved very quickly with technology and with the platforms. And really, when I first started out, it was a lot of visiting businesses and just meeting business owners, researching business owners, not just getting them on the phone, but really trying to show up and introduce myself and make the connection, which I think is very important. Um, and so there was a lot of feet on the ground and just kind of going around and meeting everybody. And then obviously, as things have grown and progressed, now we have really amazing tools like TenantBase, where we are able to connect with more people that are either coming into our market or growing within our market that, again, are having a hard time contacting somebody who's specifically working for them.
Got it. Got it. And so you mentioned tools, tenant base aside, are there things you're using to stay organized, to stay in front of local businesses? I mean, because it's a volume game, right? You can't just, you know, fixate on
Yeah.
one or two. You're having to make a lot of relationships. So Are there other tools you're using to help either organize you, find new prospects, market yourself, anything kind of under that?
For probably the last, I would say, year, I have had a lot of people come through my website. A lot of people come through my website, and a lot of my are referrals. So I really have, and and this is not to say this is for everybody. This is just kind of I think my evolving in our market and becoming a presence in our market that I mean, I'm pretty busy with people who are either referred to me from past clients or current clients, or have come through my website. So I,
Okay.
I truly have, I feel like that's something too that happens over time as you grow within your industry. And the more that you do and the more people you connect with, I really don't feel like I have to search for people anymore because people understand and value the way that I work, and they want to work with me because of that.
That's amazing. So outside of doing an incredible job for your clients, which is not to make that a throwaway, but outside of that, have you cultivated a process that you're getting referrals
Mm.
kind of offline? Like, do you request those? Is that happening naturally completely, or have you put a lot of thought into building a system there?
Honestly, it's naturally evolved. I do obviously use the CRM to manage everybody, but I have not really found myself. Um, I guess maybe the question you're asking possibly is if I'm, out or if I'm reaching out to other platforms, or
No, just
I don't know if maybe you want to clarify.
yeah, are you asking directly for referrals from existing clients? Is that just happening naturally? Do you have a process you're following to try to like
No.
okay. So it's just
Oh yeah.
you just found doing a good job building your local network that has just continued to find you in a place where people are referring you business. Got it. Okay.
It's honestly all relationship building. It's definitely all relationship building.
What do you think? Because I think most brokers would aspire to say, "Hey, I've done one deal with XYZ company. They're gonna send me a deal eventually because I did such a great job." What would you say you may do better or that you focus on to build those deep relationships that do end up in referrals or just repeat business or whatever? What would you say you do well there? Are there things that you're kind of fixated on, or what could you share about how you're building these relationships?
Communication is a really huge thing, and obviously being available. Not everybody can answer every single call when it comes in, but I really do my best to get back to people in a timely manner. And even if I am busy, I do kind of still engage in that moment to let them know, hey, I will get back to you. Or I feel like consistency and communication are the number one. When people feel like you don't have time for them, they're going to find somebody else. And so I think maybe truly being service driven and caring about that relationship and cultivating that relationship, I think that goes a long way, and people appreciate that. And I think that there's an attention to detail there that a lot of people miss, and it's one thing that people pay attention to and notice and they appreciate.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I probably fall down on it more than I would like, but I feel like the ability, even if you miss a call, that it probably seems like a throwaway to most people, but just that quick text of like, "Hey, I'm on a call. I'll call you back in a few minutes." Like that, I've just found that goes so far for when I'm on the receiving end of that, it just puts me at ease. I'm like, okay, they're gonna call me back. I'm not going into the voicemail abyss where I have to chase this person, email, call
Yeah.
over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get back to me. And those little things do add up. I mean, I've found the same thing in my career. So you mentioned a CRM. I know there's industry specific ones.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of adoption. Is there one that you've used for a while, or what are you using now, and how are you finding that in your business?
I've been using HubSpot for a really long time now. Probably maybe 8 or 9 years, and I love that platform for keeping track and managing your business and clients and automation and different things. So that's been very helpful.
Yeah, we're HubSpot users as well. I'm hearing that more and more from brokers that they've just adopted uh, on the tenant rep side. It makes a lot of sense because the off-the-shelf sales tools, work really well for brokers. So do you manage like are you touching
Yeah.
on people with like quarterly letters, newsletters, updates, things on a schedule, or is it really one-to-one relationship kind of management?
Yeah, it's one to one. I really try to I do my best to make sure that I'm in contact with the people that I work with and check in on them and really, see how business is going and how they're doing. And I feel like in a world of automation, there are so many amazing things about that, but a lot of people really appreciate that personal interaction still. And when you make a phone call and all you're getting are prompts and you're not able to get to a live person, to have that personalized approach with somebody really means a lot to people. And everybody loves how much easier things have become a little bit, when it comes to automation and things like that. But I still think that there needs to be a focus on that personal interaction. So I try to maintain that as much as possible.
Yeah, you can fall into the trap of just sending out generic information and touches and feel like you're doing the right things, but it definitely can skew ineffective. We've been through that ourselves. So as you've gone
Yeah.
through as you've gone through these evolutions of like okay, you're starting out, you're finding your local clients. Now you have, like you said, tools like us that we're, thrilled to be in business with you. What are some things that maybe as your career's gone on that you've had to work on? Like, are there things that you had to get better at to kind of reach a point where you're more effective in your day to day or just as a tenant rep in general, or running your own business? I mean, is there anything that comes to mind that you've had to work on professional development or real estate skills or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think all of those things really, I think being in a growth mindset and always growing and staying involved in the market and really knowing what's out there. Whenever I'm talking to a new client and they're sharing with me what their space needs are, I'm already thinking about who I need to call, where I'm going to place them, and that's really just from being totally immersed in the local market and knowing what's out there. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't lean into as much is broker to broker relationships. I have amazing relationships with so many brokers who are representing landlords and are in these bigger brokerages that are amazing resources and tools. And so I've really leaned into establishing relationships with everybody that I possibly can, to kind of lean into whenever I'm needing, either some insight on what they're seeing in the market or even stuff that's off market, that may be coming to market. Those relationships have been really valuable. Um, Perseverance is a really big thing too, because this is not an instant gratification business. It really takes time to integrate yourself and to really immerse yourself completely. And obviously, communication I can't express that enough. I think communication, and really being service driven. I think that when you while you're growing within brokerage and having a business and, having that relatability, you really want to fully understand people's perspectives of, having a business and looking for space. So I think growing personally is a really big thing.
I love all that. So we work with a lot of younger brokers across the country, and you kind of answered this a little bit. So I'll frame it kind of in what you just said. Like if I've got a couple deals I'm working on, but I want to immerse myself in the market. I want to do everything you just said. What should I do?
Mm,
Is that coffee meetings?
mm.
Everyone who will take them? Is it, walking properties? How do I truly get into my local market the way you described and start building those relationships? Because I've only probably got a couple things I'm working on.
Yeah. I think looking at space is it's very helpful to constantly be touring space and making connections with other brokers. And the more you are searching, I've found for different clients, the more you're searching for properties, the more you're really immersing yourself in the local market and the community to really, and driving by those properties, even seeing who the neighboring businesses are, having those conversations with the listing brokers and, not just asking questions about the space, but maybe about the property overall and really understanding who's there and what's going on. CoStar is a really great tool for, even if you're just looking at a property that may work for your client, you're able to see who's there and being able to see who's already there, you can pop over and take a look at those other businesses. And I think that all of that's really helpful, especially for retail users, because I think, knowing what's going on around these businesses is really important. And so, yeah, I think really just getting out there and knowing what's available and what's surrounding is really important.
I think that's so smart. When we started in Chicago as local brokers doing tenant rep, there's a lot of buildings that it's a big market, but our mentors always told us like you need to go walk your tour before the tour because you need to have been in the building, gone on the elevator if you could. Sometimes there was security, but you needed to do all those things so that when it gives you the confidence, but you know what to expect. You've been there, you've touched it, you kind of have a feel for that environment. Those things all add up, in my opinion, like how you
Yeah.
talk about it and present yourself. So I think that's great advice. I mean, sometimes the easiest answer is just go do it. Go get out and touch the building, touch your market, especially the ones that are accessible, like retail and flex and stuff. So other than that, if you were talking to a local tenant rep or just anyone right now, I guess, getting started or just with an outlook of how do I grow my business going forward, what are the things you're seeing that you're thinking about for how you're going to take the next steps in growth for 2026 and beyond?
I honestly don't really know how to answer that because I feel like I have just been going with the flow of how my business is evolving and um I've had a really great year. I've met so many people and I as much as I want to plan for the year ahead, I think that there are a couple of things that maybe I could be doing a little bit better, maybe reaching out to my existing clients more often rather than, every couple of months, or, I could be making more of an effort to stay engaged in shorter periods of time. But outside of that, I've grown a really amazing network of people, and I'm really excited about where I'm at now. And um, I feel like it's taken a while to get to this point. So
How many how many years
I
now?
definitely,
How many years
um,
yeah, have you been doing this?
it's been about, I've been full time commercial for about 10 years now.
So that's, I mean, that's an incredible thing. You're really feeling the compounding value of a true local up network that you've built, both industry partners and clients.
Yeah, and it's taken time.
Yeah.
It's really taken time. And I feel like, speaking to newer brokers coming in, I feel like um, you really have to be diligent and you have to stay excited, and not everybody that you work with is going to be a slam dunk, but it's an opportunity for you to be immersed in the market and looking at properties and knowing what's going on, building those relationships. And I think one thing that a lot of people miss when they get into this business is it's delayed gratification, and it's relationship building, and you're going to get as much out of it as you put into it. Nobody is going to hand you a full list of clients. You really have to build those relationships as you go along. And the more you build those relationships and the more you work in your local market, the more you're learning and growing personally, but also within your market and creating a presence for yourself. So it's definitely not an instant thing, but I think that perseverance and really being service driven is going to go a long way, and it is going to create an atmosphere where you are getting referrals and you are working off of people who are telling other business owners that they know about you, where you're now having business come in based off of your performance. And it really does take time to get to that point. But it really is exciting once you get to through all of the hard work, and effort, that you kind of feel like maybe failure after failure, but there are all opportunities to grow. All of those opportunities are to grow.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. That's great. And so one of the things we hear, you kind of just hit on, is like just get out and you got to start experimenting. And we obviously, with our platform providing those inbound opportunities, it seems it's interesting. Some brokers, kind of like yourself, I feel like it was a very well. You actually had an interesting start because I think we talked at one point. You said for the first 6 months, it just wasn't making sense to you, and then all of a sudden it did. Um, so why don't you walk me
Yeah.
through that? I'd love to hear that because we hear that it's a different experience. It's a different way to get introduced to people. It's sometimes it's a different type of clientele than people might go out and hunt on their own, but they want to build this presence in their local market, and it's a great way to do that. But yeah, talk to me about the experience starting, and then maybe there were some things that you changed or we changed, I can't remember, that kind of got you over the hump there.
I was thinking about that the other day, and um, I feel like we've worked with each other for long enough now that I understand the platform. I think initially, when for the first 6 months, I was still navigating how this works and how it can work for me. And I was finding a lot of times some of the prospects that were coming in, they were not um they were looking everywhere, so
Sure.
they weren't really dedicated, like, hey, I'm signing up on the platform, I want to be connected with a broker. Maybe they did, but they were trying to connect with any broker, they were calling all of them. And so that happens in our business, and that happens whether or not it's from TenantBase. I mean, just in normal brokerage, you often talk to somebody who's talked to everybody, and it may be a dead end, but again, it's an opportunity for you to kind of see what's out there. Um, so as I started working with TenantBase, and probably at that 6 month mark, I had closed 2 deals back to back, I think. And so it kind of it was exciting, and I was like, you know what, I need to figure out how this can work for me and how I'm going to navigate it. And I really had to shift my perspective from thinking that every prospect that was coming through was going to be a deal because, sometimes it's not, but that's okay. So I think the more time I spent on the platform and the more I understood it, the more it made more sense to me.
Yeah. So basically, it took kind of reframing, like just because it's an inbound opportunity doesn't mean it's a layup, slam dunk deal that's perfect, which we would love all of them to be, both for the tenant's benefit and for the broker network. But
Yeah.
it's just, hey, I've stumbled onto a number of resources. I'm trying to figure out this industry. It's hard to get information. It's hard to get access to service. And sometimes it's just, hey, I just want a couple answers to a couple questions. Whereas, you know, those aren't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the ones that turn into immediate kind of win now transactions. So yeah, as with anything, it takes time. Do you effectively, like, you get introduced to these people, they've been looking around, they might have stumbled on a number of places, even reached out to landlords and stuff. So how do you handle getting control of the tenant if you want to, if it's someone you wanted to work with? And then if you do go to market with them, like educating the landlord community that, hey, I'm actually representing this group. They may have been doing this on their own for a little while. Is that something you deal with? And if so, how do you overcome that?
I do. And, oddly enough, through the broker connections and relationships that I have, it honestly is just a matter of a phone call for me to say, hey, I'm working with so and so, and they understand because we all run into it. We all do. And then having obviously the conversation, with my client to make sure that, I some tenant reps have their clients sign agreements. I do not. I kind of go off of the honor system and loyalty. I don't want anybody to think that they have to work with me or one person. I want them to feel like they have the freedom to choose. But I think sometimes they don't really understand that when they're calling everybody, we're kind of a small network, even though, there's we have a big market, but everybody talks to one another. So that, you're representing somebody, or does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah,
Um,
that's way to frame it.
I kind of feel like it really boils down to your local broker relationships.
So even, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And so getting control of the tenant, you don't get representation agreements. You just have a clear conversation about your role, how you're going to help them, and ask for the good faith handshake saying, I'm gonna go work on your behalf. Let me know if you don't want to work with me anymore.
Yeah. I think essentially just letting them know that, we are working together, we're investing time together, but if they decide to go in a different direction, if they could just let me know. And that's okay. I have never had that happen to me where somebody kind of jumped ship unless they came to me and they've already called everybody. I did have that experience this week where I had been working with somebody for the last probably week and a half, and we toured several spaces, but I was understanding of the fact that when he came to me, he had already toured space with somebody else. So I was hopeful that he was going to, I was going to be able to get him into a space. But if he decided ultimately that he wanted to go in a different direction, or he found space on his own and decided to work with somebody else, that's okay too.
Yeah. Well, this is a great way to wrap up. I think this is a good theme. So I'll ask you this last question. So do you think you kind of
Yeah.
talk about being service minded, kind of having this abundance mindset, building these relationships? Do you think all these things, like making it easier to work with you, like without signing the agreement, does that give you, is that your one of your competitive advantages? Does that give you a leg up on your competition that you're willing to work that way? Or do you think it's just the comprehensive process you're putting in place?
Um, I mean, I would hope so. I don't really know how to how to answer that. Um,
And do you think other brokers are putting, and well, we can refine this. Do you think other brokers are putting up
yeah.
roadblocks that you see like you're kind of moving faster and more fluid with your clients that allows you to build these relationships?
You know, I feel like in this business sometimes people or other brokers, they are more interested in the deal than the client and the business. And I think that people they can feel that and they can see that. And so for me, being completely service driven and solution oriented, I think that people really feel that, she's here to help me, not just close a deal with me. And a lot, people do feel that. So I do think that that makes a huge difference when you're working with people to stay completely service driven. And I think that really guides the transaction, really. Obviously, knowing what you're doing and being immersed in your market, and having the experience is really valuable, but also just having that genuine approach with people. I have found for me, and I'm just kind of naturally that way, that, I want people to feel comfortable. I want them to know that I'm doing everything in my power to help them with their need. I really feel like that goes a long way.
Totally. No, that makes a ton of sense, and I think that's a great theme to end on. We've definitely seen that in working with you for several years now, and it's just awesome to see you continuing to expand and grow with us and on your own. So I really appreciate this. I think it's super helpful to hear your perspective, and thank you again for doing it.
Yeah.
And we'll
I have to tell you,
go.
before we close out, I want to thank you for really taking the time with me too and creating this platform, and creating really an environment that is really driven toward tenant representation, and not just for other brokers and for clients, but just overall, because I feel like this is something that our market has needed, and not necessarily just our market, but all markets really, in various states. I feel like this is an area that has been needing growth, and you somehow have, seen that and created this wonderful platform where people can kind of gravitate to be represented exclusively, on the client side, but also an opportunity for tenant reps to really hone in on that and grow.
Yeah. Well, thank
So
you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think we feel more excited than ever. It's such a simple concept, but there's all these local businesses and there's brokers that, that are the right fit for working with them and supporting them and helping them match together. It makes a huge difference, both for the brokers and
Yeah.
businesses. And I think we just feel lucky to be part of it. So it's really cool. We just need, keep finding, more and more people like you. Not that that's easy to do, but more,
Oh, thank you.
more brokers that we can.
I've really enjoyed working. I've enjoyed working with you guys. It's been definitely a blessing, and I've really enjoyed getting to know everybody too, on the tenant based platform as well.
Well, that means a lot. We feel the same way, and hopefully more and more in 26, and hopefully we're doing this till whenever you retire. Uh, not too soon, I hope. So it's a lot of fun. I appreciate you.
Yeah.